Hey fellas, PV2 Smurf here. PV2 Smurf here. PV2 Smurf here. Oh fellas, PV2 Smurf here. Alright, so now we're finally getting to our base gasket. Big moment we've been waiting for. Well, I've been waiting for. So I want you to know, putting the cylinder jug back on a motorcycle really makes some nerves. Had a bad incident with one growing up. Ended up ruining the jug and living hand to mouth at the time. I was unable to fix it and ended up having to sell it for parts because I couldn't afford a new cylinder jug. So this is very nerve-wracking to me. However, on their directions, since we got our gasket kit from James Gaskets, it's a complete engine kit, as you've seen previously. The gasket kit specifies right here on it the torquing sequence in which you have to use these. Now, I know that most torque wrenches don't go down to 7 or 9, and many times on my channel before I've said, hey, I don't have a torque wrench this small, and I bet you don't either. Well, I actually went out and bought an inch-pound torque wrench for the simple fact I know I'd be able to go as low as 9 foot-pounds. So how many inch-pounds are in a foot-pound? 12 inches, 12 inch-pound equals 1 foot-pound. So if you get an inch-pound torque wrench, should be no issue doing it. Now, this is for this specific gasket. Not all of them come this way. Now, this one specifically has it on it, so I'm going with this manufacturer on how to actually do the engine. We're doing the front, which is located on the right, and the gasket, the base gasket itself, looks like this. Now, the base gasket doesn't have any indication up or down or anything. The only thing directions say on it is exactly they require no additional gasket sealer for installation. Now, I was pretty tempted to use some head gasket sealer to spray on this to make sure it doesn't leak again because I don't have to go through this process again. However, I'm not going to because directions state it's not needed. So now what we're going to do is make sure we align this on here. Since there's no marks or indications on it, this has to go on first. I've already cleaned the mating surface located at the bottom of the cylinder jug down there next to the crankcase. So there's no need for me to have to clean this now. And if you haven't cleaned it up until this point, please do so now. Now I'm going to move this out of the way. What I went ahead and coated this with a light coat of oil just around the side of the piston. Another thing with the ring orientation on these, the book specifies in a normal engine, and I checked with Mutter, normal engine goes one that way, one this way, one this way, and one this way. So they're one at all four corners if it has 4 rings on it. Harley states they want theirs to go one like this, one like this, one like this, and one like this. So basically you're looking at a 10, 2, about 4, and a 8. Basically is how they say they want theirs. So that's the way I've done it. After looking at a couple of things on the internet about it, realized everybody else is doing it that way and it's worked just fine. Now if you're unsure which way your base gasket goes on here, it's pretty simple. Look at the bottom of your actual cylinder jug. See the bottom orientation of it? See the holes in it? Get your gasket. See your holes in your gasket? You only go on there one way. There's no turning it the wrong way. There's no putting it on the wrong way. See here? It goes on there one way. Another way to tell which orientation the cylinder jug goes on there, so don't put it on there the wrong way, is the side right here where the cutout is. When you look down in it, this is where this part right here, see how it's cut out? That's where your push rods come up at, so you gotta have clearance right here. So this side will go on that way. That's a good way to make sure you don't put your jug or any of that in there the wrong way. Straighten the piston up so I don't scar it, especially the skirt of it. Now mind you, now there's holes down the bottom of this main gasket here. There's holes down in here that specify that there's a guide dowel pin here, there's a hole here, there's one over there. Now what I've done to prepare for this step is I've made sure I've cleaned the jug out with rubbing alcohol, let it dry, clean the piston head off as good as I can, rubbing alcohol, let it dry. Then I lightly coated it with oil. Next thing I got was a piston ring compressor. I haven't used this in a while. Remember a 22 RE engine we rebuilt? Last time this tool was used, to compress rings with. So make sure it's been sitting a long while, so we'll make sure we clean all the stuff out of the inside of it, which we have done. If you haven't checked out my 22 RE video, look down in the bottom below and you'll see a link. So with review, I've realized I can't use this piston ring compressor because it doesn't come all the way out and give me room to pull it up and off the cylinder. So this one's not going to work, which is a real pisser. So now that I've made sure the ring gaps are lined up correctly at 10, 2, 4, and 8, roughly, put the cylinder on here. Now they make a ring band compressor. You grab a pair of pliers like this, you squeeze it, you slide it on there, and then you can undo it and take it off, but I don't have one. As you can tell, it barely clears. Now here's how I'm going to install it. Piston's lubed, cylinder's lubed with oil. See the end, I don't think you can see it in the video. The end of this is beveled, so it should help the ring slide on there. Make sure that your rings are lined up where they're supposed to be. So what I'm going to do is do that. I'm going to take my screwdriver, start on one side. Just going to slowly work my way around, supporting the cylinder. It's already started on this side right here. Really slow. There's ring one. See it slide down. All I'm doing is just lightly pushing them in, not forcing it. Yeah, it's finicky. It keeps us from going back to the parts store, and I'm all about that. One thing you do not want to do is force it. Don't believe me, go look at the price of a new cylinder jug. Not forcing, just barely lightly tapping. Watch it fall. Rings went down in the cylinder, watch it. There's the dowel on the bottom right here on this side. See the dowel right there? Make sure you line that up. There's your jug on. Whew. I don't know about you. That may have been a nervous wreck. Whew. Fingers crossed, everything's good. I'm going to check them, make sure I can slide the jug easy up and down. Should be good. Like I said, lightly tap. Whew. Jesus. Whew. Lord have mercy. All done, set the head on there. Be sure to line it up the way it's supposed to be lined up. Alright, so now we're going to torque these. I'm using an inch pound, as I said. The lowest one this goes to is 10 foot-pounds, which is 120 inch-pounds. And we're going to torque them according to the gasket, not according to the Harley Davidson. So they say to torque but 1, 2, and then you go on the other side and do 3 and 4. Now the Harley manual shows to torque it different, so depending on your gaskets, you need to reference that. These are torqued in sequence. We torque them in those sequence. First thing we do is we're going to do 10 since it don't go to 9. Then we do 12 to 15. Then we will torque each one of them to 22, 25. And then lastly, we'll tighten each bolt to 38 to 42. Before you continue and tighten these down, make sure you put a dab of oil inside of each one of the nuts and then around the head of it. Make sure you do that, it's important. Here's what you do. Get your nut. Get a dab of oil down in here. Just a little bit. I want some around the bottom of this right here. Just a dab, don't need a lot. See there, that's all we need. help us with their torque readings. Stick these in here, run them down to where they are finger tight only. Now they're all on there. Now we're going to torque it. 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll do ours 10 foot-pounds since that's the lowest one this goes to. That feels accurate. 1, 2, 'Next it says torque them to 12 to 15 foot-pounds. So on this, they call this a Tapit box. Basically it has your lifters down in it because you know your cam's located down here. So I removed my cover and painted them black, though they're not perfect as you can see, but the chrome on is feeling pretty bad, so took them off and just put a little paint on them. To me, it'll be just fine. To you, you may want to buy new ones at this point. So in order to do that, remember that the push rod has to be removed. So you pull the push rod out, you slide this tube out, and in order to get this cover right here off with this push rod, you have this part right here, and that's made to stick a screwdriver in, and you pry either top or bottom up, and when you do, it'll allow this thing to compress. Now I want to make this short little piece here to let you know that. So down in the bottom of this Tapit box, this is just to cover the actual Tapit box in there. So when you go take that loose, there's a copper washer, then there's a rubber washer, as you can see that's right there. Show you with this one on the bench. With this push rod housing, you have a one washer that goes on the top. So you got a spring, a washer, a rubber O-ring, then it goes down to your Tapit box. So that's the orientation that these go in. Another thing I noted on mine was the top of each push rod has a different color on it. So for the rear, there was a blue one that went in the front. Then this darkened purple one goes in the rear. However, if yours has been changed, the cam's been changed, or somebody's done work to it, these might not be the same. All you have to do is measure it. So if you want to take it off one by one and measure it, or if you'll mark it yourself, you can. This should be for a stock setup. Right, fellas, on this rear lower rocker box, I want to make a quick note to help you all out. It's hard to get this thing to get in here. It's hard for it to fit. So one thing to remember, there's a bolt, okay, right over there. That bolt has to be started in it. None of the rest of them do, but that has to be started in it in order to be able to slide it down in it. So you set that on there. Put this in here, raise this up, drop your push rods in, make sure your gasket's lined up, and then you'll be able to tighten this bolt back here. Don't make a mistake of putting this on here without that bolt in there. You have to take it back off. So do that. Make sure you get all this on here, and then torque these down. Now the torque specs for these bolts are different. My engine could be different than your engine, so I advise you to look it up. It's a 96 from 85 on. It says 5/16 inch bolts or 15 to 18 foot-pounds. That'll be those four, two on the other side. Then it says for the 1/4-inch bolts, which will be, there's one here, down in the middle here, and then one located right here. Those say 10 to 13 foot-pounds. Now, torque wrench would be ideal. One thing you want to make sure you don't do is you don't want to use these bolts to sink this thing down, because you don't want to pull the threads out of the cylinder head. So keep that in mind when you do this. And let's just keep cranking. This is your middle rocker cover box. These ports right here are what's called an umbrella valve. My kit come with 2 new ones. So the best way that I realize it is that the upper part, so this one's going to be facing up, the front one facing up. So this one on the top, this one on the top, got the umbrella valve. Basically, it's just a little rubber piece. As you can see right here, it has a little nipple on it with a lip. Basically, you're going to get this valve on here, push it in there, grab it and pull it. Once you get it, you should be able to move it and it not go anywhere. I don't got to pull the daylights out of it. Alright guys, setting this middle rocker cover on was a complete pain in the, well, you know, so best way I end up getting it on there. So took this bolt out, this on the right side, set it back in there, use soft mount hammer just to tap it in there just to get it to clear everything. Once I did, it sat down in there. But mind you now, that probably took me 25-30 minutes to do it, so good luck on your task of doing it. Be diligent. I really hated it that I probably put some scuff marks on it after painting it, but yeah, it is what it is, right? Now let's see how easy this top rocker cover slides on there. Make sure you remember on this part, on this top rocker cover, there's 4 bolts. 1, 2, 3, 4. Real quick, I want to make note on this carburetor. In order to get this push and pull cable back on here, or off, unless it's broke, of course, you have to take this four-way bolt loose and this one loose, and this will allow this bracket right here to move out of the way so we can slide it in this groove, and slide it through this. If you don't do that, there's no way to get it on there. Another tip that's given to me by Mutter, said take and get you some dishwashing liquid, doesn't matter the kind. So get this carburetor on here easier. Get you a dab of it, maybe a little more than a dab. Put it around this seal right here. It should slide over this fairly easy. Seems simple enough, didn't it? Next thing I'm going to do now is make sure the front of this is still even. It's off a little bit. Okay, it's good there. Alright. Time for first startup. If you ain't nervous at this point in your life, I don't know. I don't know about you. So, I was told by Mutter, pull spark plugs, crank the engine over, about 20 seconds. Even though I use assembly lube, so crank it over 20 seconds. Plug wires, pull out the spark plug. Spark plug 1, spark plug 2. Gas on, choke, open the door, let the exhaust out. I love this thing, but I sure don't want to die for it. This exact moment, if your butthole ain't clenched tight as I don't know what, go you. Plug back in. Another plug back in. Alright. Let's give it a whirl. Help to turn the choke on. Come on, Lucy. Come on, Lucy. Hey fellas, I want to appreciate you for tuning in on the video. If I have anything that I missed, could have done a little bit better or whatever, let me know in the comment section below. As always, guys, remember, your rig, your call.